The Peter Schiff Show.
Well, hour two of the Peter Schiff Show is underway. Joining the program now is James O'Keefe. James is the president and founder of Project Veritas. His mission to investigate and expose corruption, dishonesty, self-dealing, waste, fraud, and other misconduct, and otherwise standard operating procedure in anything related to the federal government. He's probably most famous for the undercover sting video regarding Acorn. If you remember that video, you had a bunch of Acorn workers that were helping his undercover operatives set up a underage prostitution ring. James, welcome to the Peter Schiff Show.
Well, great to be here. And today on the Banner on Drudge Report, right now, our new investigation launched into what they call Obama phones. They're telling us to sell the phones and buy drugs and Louis Vuitton handbags. Right now on the Banner on Drudge Report.
Yeah, Jim, I was just reading, and again, I mentioned you've got a new book out. I've got it in my hand, Breakthrough, Our Guerrilla War to Expose Fraud and Save Democracy. I'd rather have it save Republican government, but that's a whole different argument. But here's your new book, and I just watched that video of the Obama phones. And isn't the law, supposedly it's one phone per person and you're not allowed to sell it? Is that the way the law was written?
That's correct. The worker clarifies in the video. She says it would be against the law to sell it. But then this Obama phones worker, and they refer to themselves, by the way, as selling Obama phones. So although the program was started 2 decades ago, but they say you can sell the phone and just they say plead the fifth. Don't tell anybody that you did so. But you can go ahead and buy heroin, and we'll look the other way.
Yeah, I heard the woman said just keep it to yourself. I mean, you have somebody saying, I need money, I'm spending a lot of money, I need to pay my bills, and I need these Obama phones so I can sell them. And instead of saying, well, then you can't have one, and like reporting her and putting her on some kind of list, like, maybe take her picture, hey, do not let this person have a phone, you have the Obama phone distributors. I don't want to call them salesmen because they're not actually selling them, they're giving them away, but they're actually instructing people on how to break the law.
That's exactly right, and the book Breakthrough that I'm releasing today, I mean, this is like the 25th time we've shown this to be the case. Programs that are intended to do good, but we show them doing bad. This is corporate welfare in this case. These are billionaires like Carlos Slim who've collected billions from this program, and there's an incentive to just dole out phones. In the video, you see them dumping phones into buckets and giving them out to anybody who wants them. Some people get more than one. So this is another example of the waste, fraud, and abuse that Project Veritas.
Well, I remember a video we played where one woman said she has something like 20 or 30 Obama phones. I mean, is there any even methodology for making sure that people don't show up at a different phone center every day to collect their free phone?
No, there's no transparency because the journalism establishment, they say that this is a good, well-intentioned program, therefore it should not be investigated. And that's why we face such obstacles. The book Breakthrough shows all the hurdles I've had to overcome, government trying to prosecute me, media defaming me. And this is about transparency. I just want people to see what happens so they have all the information. And this, I mean, I can tell you something. I was on the ground doing the story. I mean, there were buckets of phones, and they were giving them out to anybody for any reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but why is it a good thing? I would argue that it's even, why do we have to give people something for nothing? I mean, telephones, a cell phone is not even that expensive today, especially a low-cost one. You get a minimal plan. If somebody who's on welfare wants a cell phone, they have plenty of welfare money to buy a cell phone. It's not like they have to get a cell phone in addition to all the other benefits they have. They can buy one if they want one.
Yeah, that's another point to make. I'm just trying to bring the left and the right together because the left does believe that that we should be spending money on these programs and it helps people. But what I'm trying to say, even if you do believe that, even if you are a statist type who thinks that we should be spending money on these things, you still don't agree that we should be, having phones given out and sold for drugs. No one can defend that. And it actually hurts the poor. Not only doesn't it not help them, it hurts the poor to do that type of thing.
Right, but that's par for the course with a government program. It's impossible to design a government program where there's not going to be waste, fraud, and abuse. I mean, that's why we want to have as few programs as possible, or one of the reasons is because there always will be fraud. And I think the Obama administration, if you look at a lot of the people who are voting for certain politicians simply because they're thanking them for their free phones. The politicians, They want people to get something for nothing because then they get their vote.
That's right. There's an element of buying votes in this, but this is not the first time we've done this. We've done this so many times. There was one program similar to this, Medicaid workers telling us to lie on our applications so that we could be eligible for Medicaid. They were saying, you're a drug dealer, call yourself, say that you do babysitting. And that worker was fired, and they retrained the workers. In the Acorn case, they were telling us to lie about our profession. They said, don't call it prostitution, call it performing artistry. You're an exotic dancer on your 1099. So
what they should have been doing is calling the police. They should have called the police to bust your underage prostitution ring.
Yeah, I mean, this is rotten to the core. These are not isolated incidents. It's not low-level employees. It's the system that is rotten to the core. And there's a gap between the government and the governed. And what this book, Breakthrough, is about is it tells you all the harrowing stories, not just of what we've exposed, but how we had to break through all this media and government crap in order to actually get to the journalism. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's up to us as citizens to do it.
Yeah, and I think also it's not a very safe thing to do in some cases. I think you guys did one interview where I forget it was some kind of phony jobs program, but it looked like you were meeting with Tony Soprano's crew, and you were trying to get these guys, about this phony jobs program that you were trying to get funded. And I thought if they see that camera somewhere, I mean, you guys are going to end up buried in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah, that was my favorite investigation we ever did. So your listeners know we posed as Earth Supply and Renewal, whose mission was to dig holes and fill them up again. We said to these labor unions in New York, and these guys looked like straight out of The Sopranos. We said, we want to get money to dig holes and fill them up again. And the assemblymen, there was a union boss, they actually told us, as long as you get the money, you can figure out what you want to do with it afterwards. And no one covered that story. You want to know why? Because the media was afraid to. And they can't do certain exposés because they're afraid of the retaliation from their sources, their friends, their political allies.
We talked a little bit about a undercover video that was done exposing some of the fraud in Obama phones. We've actually got some of that video, so let me play a little bit for you. You can see the whole thing. It's up on the Drudge Report. But here's a small clip, cut number 7.
Once you guys give me the phone, it's my phone? Yeah. Gosh, so I can sell it. Whatever you want to do with it. Okay. So get some money for heroin. Hey, I don't judge. Okay, thank you. Yep.
So what did he say? I don't want to judge you?
Yeah, he's like, I don't judge you, and meanwhile there's a sign behind him that says it's like a violation of federal law to give out more than one phone or give it out for reasons that people are not, intending to use them for the correct reasons. So that was not the only clip. There's a lot of other clips in the video. But in other words, though, he's breaking two laws because it's illegal to sell the phone, but the heroin that he wants to buy is also illegal. It's against federal law to buy heroin too. So he's breaking two laws at the same time. Yeah. And because this is an undercover investigation, it's unlikely that anyone will get prosecuted because there's no actual criminal conspiracy because one of the parties is acting. Nonetheless, this is another example of how rotten the program is. This is not an isolated incident because it's incentivized to give out things for the wrong reasons. It's incentivized to just dole out phones to protect the billionaire cronies like Carlos Slim and J.F. Pollock, who benefit from the money that they get from the government
from the phones. And of course, the government does an undercover deal. They get somebody to entrap somebody to sell them some prescription pain pills, and then the next thing they know, they're in jail for 25 years. So it's okay for the government to entrap people, but you're not even entrapping them. They're just ensnaring themselves. Here's one more little clip from this. Here's a funny one. Cut number 10.
basically, I just need, you know how it is. I love bags, and I have so many bills. I am in debt. So I need to sell as many of these phones as possible to pay off my bills and stuff. So I don't know what to do. Okay. I mean, all I'm saying is thank God for Obama, because Obama's basically paying for my Louis Vuitton bag right now, if you know what I mean. So to sell the phone? I thought I could do what I want.
Is up to you. It don't have none. Just keep it to yourself.
Keep it to yourself. That's what she tells her.
That's right, yeah. I mean, she says she wants to get Louis Vuitton bags, pay off her bills, and these employees are saying, you can do whatever you want with this phone that we are giving you with your money, with other people's money. So, again, this is every
And it's supposedly there, right, for an emergency. That's why they need to have these phones in case of a life-threatening emergency, and they have to call somebody. Because it used to be, somehow now, a cell phone is a necessity. It's not just a luxury, but it's something that's so vital that we have to make sure that poor people have them, even if we have to give them to them.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, it's just another example of, like I was talking about before, people don't feel like their public servants serve them. They feel like their media is not serving them. And I think it's up to the breakthrough of the book. It talks about how you have to do the job yourself. You cannot rely upon politicians or media figures to do the job for you. I mean, it is insane that the paper covering this is the UK Daily Mail. We're not even the United States media now is covering a story about $1 billion program.
Yeah, you got to go to the UK to get decent journalism about the United States these days. So tell me about what about the California homeless?
Yeah, we did a video. I mean, we've done so many. There's so many crazy stories in Breakthrough the book. But one of the interesting, people love this, is that we went to California, Sacramento. There was a bill. It was called the Homeless Bill of Rights. And this bill, you know, it was well intended. It was supposed to help homeless people. It was trying to get them they were able to sleep on the streets, create a domicile, residence on sidewalks. You could, an earlier version of the Homeless Bill of Rights in California, you were allowed to urinate and defecate on sidewalks. Now, the people who sponsored this bill, assemblymen in California, we wanted to do a little experiment. If we pose
before I want to ask you a quick question before you do the experiment. So
Sure.
I don't understand, why do you need? I mean, why should you get special rights simply because you're homeless? I mean, after all, if you're allowed to defecate on the street, why do you have to be homeless to do it? Why can't anybody defecate in the street? Even if a homeless person can do it, why can't somebody that's renting an apartment? I mean, you can't have a special right just because you don't have a home.
That's exactly right, but our point with this exercise was to sort of do as we say, not as we do crowd. These legislators, hypocrites, they were all about, we can have them sleep on your sidewalk and defecate on your sidewalk and live on your sidewalk. So we went to their sidewalk, and we posed as homeless people on their sidewalk, and lo and behold, guess what happened? The security cops showed up in about 45 seconds flat. We stood out there for half an hour, and the moment the assemblyman left his driveway in his BMW on his way to Sacramento, the moment that happened, guess what happened? The cops showed up. And there was another part where we actually went in front of his office, and the feds showed up. The Department of Homeland Security showed up. You can't make this stuff up. These people.
Now, did anybody urinate or defecate on the street, or what was that?
No, I would never do that. No, I would never cross that line. I was just standing there with a sign, and it was apparent that we were homeless, but we were not doing anything like that.
So they wouldn't even let you. They wouldn't even let you stand on their street, let alone pee on it.
Exactly, and that was not the only time, Peter, that we.
You should have pitched a tent. You should have just said you're moving there. That's where you're going to live.
Well, that was not the only time we did something. I think the bigger one of the two, where we exposed sort of legislative hypocrisy, is the whole gun debate, where they said, "Oh, you're supposed to have gun-free zones." We went to the homes of journalists who were against guns and asked them to put a sign in their lawn saying this home is proudly gun-free. So the book Breakthrough actually talks about how all these journalists refused to put signs on their lawn saying this home is gun-free, while simultaneously saying other people should say that they're gun-free zones. It was beautiful to watch the hypocrisy unfold on tape.
Yeah, well, I guess they didn't want their house to be targeted by criminals because, they would probably more likely want to have a sign that said, locked and loaded, I shoot first, any intruders will be shot. They'd probably rather have that sign on their lawn.
That's exactly right. I mean, there's actually one scene in the video of the gun thing where the guy actually says, you know what, I totally agree with you. I think guns are awful and I want them banned. But I don't want to put that sign on my lawn announcing to the world that I don't have any guns because then an intruder might come and kill me. I mean, he was literally
it's
making
almost like
policy argument. He was making the argument against for the program that he doesn't support.
Yeah, it's like somebody is going to put a sign on their lawn, no dogs. There are people actually that have recordings of dogs barking. They don't actually want to get a dog, as I guess they don't want to walk it and feed it, but they want burglars to think there's a big dog there. So they have, sound recordings of dogs, and they'll put signs, beware of dog, even though there's no dog there, because they're hoping the mere possibility of a big dog will keep a burglar away. Well, that's the same thing when it comes to guns. I mean, if somebody thinks that you're armed, why risk getting shot? Especially if the house next door is proudly displaying a sign that says, we have no guns. Come rob us.
Exactly. So, it's just, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, there's so many crazy stories in the book, Breakthrough. There's one story where this guy in New Hampshire tried to indict me for exposing voter fraud. His name was Richard Head, like Dick Head. This Richard Head character, the Associate Attorney General, tried to indict me.
Well, you can't look. You can't blame the guy. I mean, he had to grow up. I mean, how could his parents name him Dickhead? I mean, didn't they know that? Their last name is Head? How can you name your kid Richard when your last name is Head?
His name is Richard W. Head. Yesterday, the drug report covered the video. We ambushed Richard Head. I said, Mr. Head, why did you try to work with the feds?
Yeah. Hey, Jim, we got to rush. We got a hard break coming up. Good luck with your book, Breakthrough. We got another segment coming up. 2 more, actually. Half hour to go. We'll be right back on SchiffRadio.com.